All right, guys, welcome to the video. So this is going to be a guide on how to stay in shape while traveling and even continue to make progress because that's the ultimate goal. And I recently got back from a trip to Peru. As you can see right here, I'm at Machu Picchu, and this is me in Lima, which is the capital of Peru, out on the coast. And I was gone for a full week. And despite that, I was able to hit a PR on bench, which is crazy. And I was able to still make progress towards my goals and not fall off the wagon because too often I'll see people that just because they have a work trip or a vacation, a wedding, they'll just use that as an excuse to just completely eradicate everything that they've been doing and not stick to a process because the lack of having a system in the first place makes it easy to completely fall off. Because when people enter a new environment, that just completely brings about a different side of them. And you want to be able to find something simple and effective that works. That way you can take it with you anywhere and you're not going to be susceptible to the pull of any other environment that's there, and you'll just have a rock solid foundation. So let's get into it. All right, and the first thing you want to master is the morning routine. And ideally, have it be the exact same thing you do at home. And it's very important to make sure that it's simple, efficient, that it's quick. That way you can take it with you anywhere. And it's just good because you want to be able to do something that puts you in the right mindset, and it'll lead to the same type of behavior that you typically do when you're at home. If you're more focused while at home, then you want to be able to create a system that puts you in the same frame of mind. That way you can be in that same mindset when you're on vacation too. So something that I do is called the 5-4-5 method. And I have my own journal for that. On the first page, I have my 5 most important goals written down, and then a 4-step morning routine to put me in a high frequency state to achieve those goals. And then every single day, I write down 5 tasks that I'm going to do to get me closer to my goals. So with this, obviously, when I'm at home, the 5 things that I do each day are a bit more time consuming. They're a bit more detailed and require more focus. But when I'm traveling, I still do 5 things to get me closer to my goals. I just make sure that it's not as much effort and they're not as time consuming. Because when you're on vacation, when you're traveling, you want to be able to enjoy your experience. You don't want to be overly consumed with making progress and staying consistent in this way. But you still want to have something that you do every single day. Because if you're serious about your goals, if you want to get somewhere in life, then you need to have a process that you follow. And this is what I do. And it's led to me being able to live my dream life here in Colombia. And it's been the most transformative thing that's been a part of my life. So that's why I'm very passionate about sharing it. So yeah, like I said, it helps you enter the day with the right mindset, and it reinforces similar behavior patterns when you have the same morning routine that you do. And for me, my morning routine that I stick to is I make my bed and then I make a beverage of creatine and electrolyte powder. I just mix it in with water. And then I'll read and I'll journal, and then I'll do the 5-4-5 in a separate journal. So that's what I do for my morning routine. It takes me like 15, 20 minutes, and it's not that long. So you want to find something that's short, that's repeatable, because you want to make sure that it's easy, but something that's easy, effective, and puts you in the right state of mind. Because if you enter the day in a fragmented state without any purpose or any direction, then your behavior is going to be representative of that. And you don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that you enter the day in the right way. So that way you have more direction, you have more clarity as far as like what your intention is for the day. But a lot of people, the first thing that they do is go on their phone and just enter the digital world of distraction, social media, and all of that. But you want to make sure that that is not a part of your morning routine, and that you can, set the right intention, set the tone for the day. And then afterwards, you'll have more clarity and have more focus for how you want to spend your day. So it's very important. And then you also want to stick to a few non negotiables, and you want to just make it easy as well. Just make consistency easy. So, what I do is I pack a light resistance band to bring with me. That's this picture right here, because it's very small, it's very compact. You can fit it in a suitcase or a backpack very easily. And I do that just for some activation exercises and just for some overall stretching too. I do 100 push-ups every single day. I've been doing that for 32 days now, and it's been very effective at being able to establish the right mindset for the day, because it helps me have more discipline. And if I'm ever feeling off or out of it, it's a great way to just make yourself feel better and get that spark back. So it's not really about trying to make gains in my chest. It's more so about just trying to set the tone for the day. And it just reinforces the identity of someone who is active. And it just kind of primes my body to want more activity and to be ready for anything that I'm going to be doing throughout the day. So when you have light movement with the resistance band and doing push-ups after your morning routine, then it's a great way to just set the foundation, and it just puts you in the frame of mind even more so to want to be healthy, to want to stay consistent, and to really value the right things, value your goals and where you're going in life. Because again, all of this isn't that complicated. It doesn't take that much time or effort, but it's something small that once you do it for a few times, and like me being on day 32 doing push-ups, but I've been doing my morning routine for well over like 6 or 7 months now. But once you get used to it, it becomes effortless. And that's how it should feel when you're on vacation too. But it's something that requires not that much effort, but it has a huge upside in being able to frame your thoughts, your actions, and your behavior for the rest of the day. So I just want to really drive that home, just the importance of the routine and of just having a few non-negotiables that you stick to. All right. And as far as structured workouts, you want to do what you can when you can. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be pretty. But a few things that I like to live by is being able to select a place that I'm staying that already has a gym, which is this picture right here. And it had a squat rack, it had a barbell. I was very surprised by that. And that's the most I put up on bench ever. So I was very happy with that. And I don't even know where that came from, but I was just able to do that out of nowhere because I was feeling good that day. But, being able to choose a place that has a gym is the most ideal because that's the most frictionless and it's right there. You just have to probably walk down the stairs or take the elevator and it's right there. Or if you're staying somewhere that's a bit more urban, you can get a day pass somewhere close by. Usually it's free or cheap. You don't have to worry about paying that much. And it's always cool to check out a new gym and see how it is and see how it's structured. And it makes it feel a lot more novel and exciting because when you go to the same gym all the time, it can get boring anyways. So it's always cool to just always go to a gym in a new city and see what it's like. Beyond that, you can do bodyweight workouts wherever, whenever. And when you do calisthenics, it opens the door to being able to do any type of workout anywhere you go. You can always find an outdoor park, which is me right here. And luckily, me being in South America, they have a lot of fitness parks and stuff like that. So it's easy to find that where I am. But I'm sure even if you're in the US or in the UK, anything like that, you can still find it. You just have to look around. But there's always something you can do, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be structured all the way. You just want to be able to use what you have, whether it's only dumbbells. If you have a barbell, that's ideal. But, me right here, like I'm doing dips on the two side railings where my Airbnb was. So my Airbnb was inside that door right there. And on the railing, it was enough space to where I could do dips. So I did I did 4 sets of about 15 to 20 dips right there. So just wherever you see an opportunity to train, do it. Like you want it to be a part of your identity, how you see yourself, how you move about life. And it doesn't have to be this full program that you adhere to. Just use what you have. And to be honest, the best workouts that I have are the ones where it's not in the best format or the best conditions, where I have to improvise. I have to kind of think about how I can maximize what I have. And just being in a new place, like it just makes it feel more novel, more exciting. And I just end up enjoying it more because it's different. You want to use traveling as an opportunity to just put yourself out there, kind of experiment with other forms of training and just have fun with it because that's what it's all about. All right. And as far as diet, so you want to be able to enjoy yourself. Obviously, you want to have freedom within reason. So if you want to have more freedom with what you eat, the first thing that I like to do is either skip breakfast altogether or just keep it very light. For me on that trip, most days I was eating just one banana and like a small protein bar every single morning. So it was about like 250 calories. And I would eat that like around 8 or 9 o'clock, about an hour after my morning routine. And then I wouldn't eat until like 1-ish o'clock. So I would have that and I would just use that as fuel for my actual workout. So I would just do that, go to the gym like an hour later, and I would be good to go. If you're eating a big breakfast and lunch and dinner, then obviously you're going to be over in calories and it's more likely to gain weight throughout the trip. So an easy thing to do is just skip breakfast. And a great way to avoid being hungry is to drink electrolyte powder. And that's a great way to curb your appetite. Doing that, you can do black coffee, or you can do what I did and just have a very light breakfast around 250 calories. Because then, it's not a full intermittent fast at that point, but it's still very light to where you're going to reduce the overall calorie intake you have throughout the whole day. And then you can just, feel more free to eat what you want throughout the day. All right, and the next thing I like to do is prioritize protein. This is very simple and effective because protein is the most satiating macronutrient. So the more protein you eat, the more likely you're going to hit your protein goal, which is what we all want to do, and that's the most important thing. But it'll make you less hungry overall because it's the most satiating. So what I like to do is stick to lean cuts of meat, ideally chicken. That's my go-to. And if I can, I like to order extra protein as well. On top of that, I either pack protein powder if I forget to pack it, or if I just don't, then I make sure to buy a protein shake, which is what you see right here, at least once per day. That way I can get at least 30 more grams of protein into each day. That way I'll be more likely to hit my protein goal. And then on top of that, you want to stock your fridge with protein dense snacks or anything healthy. I like to do Greek yogurt and just having some fruit right there. That way I can make a yogurt bowl right then and there. So just like something simple that you can pack with you. Or another option is doing a minimally processed protein bar, like an RX bar, stuff like that. So whenever you do snack, just make sure that it's protein dense, or that you pair whatever you're eating with protein. You don't want it to only be carbs or only be fat based. You want to make sure that you do that. That way it'll keep you more full, keep you more satiated. And whether you're trying to lose fat or build muscle, the most important macro that you want to hit is your protein regardless. So either way, it's a win-win, and it'll just help you out in general. So yeah, overall, you want to be able to enjoy yourself. And, with these two meals that I'm eating here, well, that's not a meal. It's just a little ice cream cup. But with this meal right here, obviously it's not the most healthy. We got some fried plantains, and I do have chicken, rice, and it's got fries too with the fried egg. But, it's not the most healthy, but you should feel free to just eat how you want, as long as you just are mindful and you focus on protein. That's the most important thing. So as long as you're doing that, and as long as you try to structure in training throughout your trip, you should be fine. But in addition to that, you want to focus on steps too, which is something we'll cover in a couple slides. All right, and about alcohol. So, obviously if you're going on vacation, then most people like to drink. If you don't, you can just ignore this. But, most people do like to drink. And I did have a few drinks when I was in Peru, as you can see right here. But you want to be able to follow a few guidelines if you do. So you want to be able to alternate one alcoholic beverage with one water. That way you can stay hydrated, and it'll make you less likely to binge drink or over drink. And you want to stay hydrated before, during, and after. So you stay hydrated before with electrolyte powder. If you do that in the morning, you can do even more before you go out, or just try to chug a bunch of water before you go out in general. And then during, like I said, you want to alternate one alcoholic beverage with one water. And then after, so after just either drinking a lot of water, having more electrolytes, something of that nature, you want to be able to enjoy yourself and get a nice buzz, but within reason. Because if you go too far and if you're not focused on staying hydrated, then you're going to feel that much worse in the morning. And none of us want that to happen because it feels like shit. So, you want to be able to choose the lower calorie options too, because as we know, alcohol is very caloric and it can just add a lot of empty calories to your system that you don't need. So either sticking to a vodka soda, tequila soda, seltzers, or a light beer. Just, also being mindful of this as well as your hydration. You just want to be able to choose the right drinks and just not go overboard, which I know it's hard if you're in a certain setting and environment. But, with you doing the morning routine, with you doing the push-ups and framing yourself in the right way, you'll be more likely to want to adhere to this when you're already priming yourself to want to be healthy. And that's the way that it should feel. So the whole goal here, obviously, is to enjoy yourself, to have a good time, but to also be mindful. And that's just the biggest key, to have awareness of what you're doing, how it's going to affect you later, and to really value your health over everything else. Because if your mind is in that place, then you're going to be less likely to indulge in bad behavior. So that's the biggest shift that you want to make. Okay, so steps, daily movement. This is the most critical piece right here to make everything work, because if you don't move your body, and if you're more sedentary when you travel, for one, you're not going to get the most out of the experience, because you want to be able to enjoy yourself and explore the city, explore where you are. And the best way to do so is on foot. This is just a general guideline, but it still applies if you're trying to lose weight or build muscle. You still want to move your body every single day, get at least 10,000 steps if possible. But just as an extra buffer, you want to shoot for 15,000, just because you'll be much less likely to be in a surplus that way. And if you are bulking, you don't want to be in too much of a surplus anyways. So it's always just a good habit to move your body. That's how you stay lean. That's how you stay healthy and make it sustainable for the long term. But yeah, like I said, it just makes it more enjoyable to walk around a new city, to explore. It's the best way to explore. So if you ever have the option to Uber or to walk, always walk, because it's just better and you get more out of the experience in general. So the more that you walk, the more activity you get, the less you have to worry about your macros as long as you focus on protein. Because I don't have any of my clients track their macros and they all get great results. And you shouldn't have to have that be a focus just in general throughout your life, because no one wants to track macros all the time. As long as you know what your protein goal is and you have a rough idea that you are hitting it, that's all that really matters. But especially on vacation, you don't want to just be out here on MyFitnessPal always tracking everything. So a great way to avoid that is to focus on protein and get your steps up. And when you're out here traveling where you have more freedom within what you typically eat, a good buffer is 15,000 steps. So that's the way that I see it. All right, last slide here. Staying consistent ultimately should lead to more enjoyment. And you want to be able to reframe it, because a lot of people, they have the perception that doing anything fitness related or doing anything that requires this type of process feels like a hassle, feels like a struggle. I don't feel like doing it. It takes too much time. I want to be able to enjoy myself. But you want to be able to reframe it from the perspective that you being able to stay consistent in these small ways, being able to have it be on the forefront of your mind and have it be a focus, should be enjoyable. It should be something that you have pride in, because you're staying consistent, you're staying true to yourself, you're a man of your word. Like, that should be where you derive enjoyment, not the fact that you have to do this, you have to do that, but that you get to do it. Like, you get to stay consistent. There's a little bit of adversity. There's a few roadblocks, things you have to overcome, but ultimately it's not that hard. You just have to view it from that angle that, doing the morning routine, doing the push-ups, getting a few workouts in, being able to move your body, and just being more mindful of your diet, all those things, like, it's not that much and you can still enjoy yourself. And that's the entire point. So you shouldn't feel like it's anything that's overwhelming. It's something that's very attainable. And the easier you see it in that way, like, the more likely you are to see it in that way, the more likely you are to adhere to it. So you want to view it from that lens, and it makes everything so much more sustainable. Because again, you want to have a system that's easy, that's repeatable, that you can take with you anywhere. And that's exactly what this is. Because the biggest differentiator between people who actually make progress and the ones who don't are the ones who can stick to a system like this when they're out of town, when they're away, when life gets in the way, being able to have something that they adhere to no matter what. Because the quicker you make that mindset shift and you start doing the right things on the back end when you're at home, then the more solidity you're going to have and the more of a foundation you'll have going into any other life event that comes your way. And that way, the results will be inevitable. It'll be sustainable. And you won't have to worry too much. It'll just be a part of who you are, because that's the ultimate goal. That's how I live my life. That's how I teach my clients, because you don't want to go to the extremes, feel like you need to do these 30-day challenges or do anything to where you look forward to it ending. You want it to just enjoy the act, enjoy the process of who you're becoming, focusing on that, not really focusing on the outcome. But being able to integrate all of this into your trips, into your life in general, and just enjoying the effort, enjoying that, and just having that be where your focus lies. So that's it for today's PowerPoint. I hope this has been helpful to you guys in some way and that you can start applying it to your lives today. So with that, I will leave you guys and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.